Hello, I'm Joshua Hale, and I am a professor of art and design at Trinity Western University. If you think about it, interconnection is at the heart of everything. Nothing in our world exists entirely independent from anything else. Just take a look at any word in a dictionary and you'll see that its definition requires other words, each with their own definitions. Every word is connected to every other word. Interestingly, connection is also the foundational core of creativity. If creativity were a car, it would run on connection. Steve Jobs famously said, "Creativity is just connecting things." To frame it slightly differently, creativity is simply the ability to create new, original, and valuable connections within a given system. So if we want our creativity to make a difference in the world, we would do well to pay attention to how things are connected and also how they might be connected differently in the future. Every system that we encounter, whether it's a car, a tree, or a university, every system can be understood as a network of nodes and connections. For this reason, connection is at the root of systems thinking, where creative insights can be uncovered by paying close attention to the dynamic flows, feedback loops, and interactions between every node of a given system. In paying attention to these systems, sometimes we discover that we've been paying attention to the wrong node or failing to account for the way one node influences another. These discoveries have driven many innovations throughout history. Many innovations have also arisen from paying close attention to the natural world, which is absolutely filled with systems. Thich Nhat Hanh expressed this beautifully when he said, "If you are a poet, you will see clearly that there is a cloud floating in this sheet of paper. Without a cloud, there will be no rain. Without rain, the trees cannot grow, and without trees, we cannot make paper. The cloud is essential for the paper to exist. If the cloud is not here, the sheet of paper cannot be here either." So if we want to learn about creativity, we would do well to pay closer attention to the natural world, which goes beyond mere one-way connections to complex interconnections. Nature exists in a perpetual dance of creation and recreation. From the flowers in the field to the tomato in your garden, nature is always in the business of creating. It's hard to imagine anything outcompeting the creative production of the natural world. Seen in this way, the natural environment, our environment, is already a profoundly creative space, and we are a part of it. We merely need to open our eyes and increase our awareness of the connections that exist all around us. And being immersed in this interconnected world, we would also do well to pay attention to the ways connection can spark ideas and drive human innovation. And one of the best ways is through analogy and metaphor. For example, in designing the Apple Store, Steve Jobs ignored current paradigms in pursuit of a larger question. Rather than asking what approaches are currently being used for tech sales, he asked a deeper question. As you go about your daily life, where have you received the best customer service? This led him to integrate approaches from the hotel and hospitality industry, such as the concept of a concierge, which was wildly outside the default ways of thinking about tech sales. The Apple Store was therefore the product of a willingness to learn from analogy and metaphor. And looking at something from a nonlinear or lateral viewpoint, Jobs was exhibiting high ambiguity tolerance, where the right answer isn't initially apparent, nor deduced in a purely straightforward and rational manner. He knew that creative leaps often come from finding connections between disparate topics that extend beyond the default seemingly rational paradigms. In many cases, advances in one area can be used to innovate in other areas. And by releasing our grasp on predetermined linear answers, we will be better able to see a wider range of new connections and unconventional solutions. When viewed in this way, creative insights are not light bulbs or magic. They are simply the willingness to find and acknowledge unconventional connections. And these connections naturally arise out of an attitude of openness, humility, and curiosity. Connection is also about interpersonal connection. Interconnection is the foundation of love, relationship, community. In Philip Kinnison's book, Life on the Vine, he characterizes love as other-directedness. Love, by definition, requires connection between two parties, but it also requires an unselfish other-directedness for the good of the other party. Framed in this way, to love is to cultivate strong relationships and deep connections. It is to fully engage within the context of a community with an attitude of mutual benefit and receptivity. So if we want to be creative, if we want to harness the potential of interconnection, we greatly benefit from participating in a creative community of some kind. where the insights of others can form new nodes in our thinking. Richly connected, diverse communities can rapidly expedite innovation. Even a relatively independent creative genius like Da Vinci spent several years learning from a mentor, corresponded with experts in various disciplines, and eventually worked with assistants of his own. None of his work can be understood separately from the cultural context in which it was made. Creative communities, workshops, and mentorships are catalysts for creativity because they cultivate connection, and connection empowers creativity. Connection is also at the core of how we learn. In order to learn something new, we need to connect it to something else. This is why mistakes and failures are so essential to the process of learning, as we are able to iteratively build upon what works and what doesn't work until we arrive at a solution. In design, we use the approach of rapid prototyping to speed up the learning process. Rapid prototyping pushes us to create many solutions to a given problem within a short time frame, knowing that most of the ideas generated will only be used as stepping stones to an eventual final solution. We have to fail forward to find a creative solution. In this way, making is not merely the end product of learning, but the means by which we learn. It's also making to learn. It also has the side benefit of making our thinking tangible and testable by ourselves and others, thus providing a springboard for robust conversation and collaboration. A creative prototype can create a rich space where meaningful dialogue can occur, even between people of very different backgrounds and disciplines. The idea of academic disciplines is a human invention that has slowly developed over the past few centuries. The disciplines are all connected, of course, and many have common roots, but they each have a tendency to suffer from siloing and over-specialization. While disciplinary specialization has proven to be an excellent way to pursue depth and rigor, it can also get so lost in the details that it loses relevance. Any paradigm that exclusively focuses inward rather than outward is a greater risk of irrelevance and stale myopic thinking. On a global scale, there are many indications that a paradigm of bridge building and diversification is becoming increasingly advantageous. We can see this in the richly multifaceted ways creatives have engaged in online platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. This contemporary creative ecosystem rewards those who can combine a wide range of skill sets. If you're an artist, it is beneficial to have design or video skills to enrich and expand the reach of your work. It is incredibly valuable for an artist with a critical practice to combine their work with insights from the natural and social sciences. If you're a designer, it is beneficial to integrate illustration, programming, or animation skills, and so on. And while some of this is new, the tradition of integrating different disciplines is very old. This is again exemplified by someone like Da Vinci, who is 100% engaged in the empirical study of subjects like flight, optics, engineering, human anatomy, and water flow dynamics. But he was also 100% an artist. We have to remember this is the same guy that painted the Mona Lisa. And being 100% artist and 100% scientist, Da Vinci clearly felt no need to define himself as only one or the other. Nor did he seem to elevate one over the other. Sadly, Da Vinci's penchant for transcending boundaries would have made it challenging for him to fit within the academic structures we find at most educational institutions today. How would the quintessential Renaissance man go about choosing only one or two majors? Perhaps he would double major in art and engineering, but then what about math? What about medicine? What about physics? So that begs the question, what sort of atmosphere would be necessary for someone like Da Vinci to thrive? An atmosphere that transcends silos and disciplines, an atmosphere designed to not merely tolerate but actually cultivate the multifaceted skill sets necessary to successfully navigate a rapidly changing world. As new technologies replace entire occupations, it's advantageous and potentially urgent to have a resilient skill set that enables you to quickly pivot to new opportunities. This is why it is imperative to lean into the interdisciplinary affordances of a liberal arts education in today's context. An interdisciplinary mindset intentionally weaves back together the rich interconnections that exist between the arts and sciences, while also catalyzing the fresh creative insights our world needs. Everyone can benefit from seeking out interdisciplinary opportunities, which can combine scientific precision with unbridled creativity, just like Da Vinci. And why stop there? When interdisciplinary dialogue is extended to stakeholders outside academia, we enter the space of transdisciplinarity, which has been recommended for addressing the world's most challenging, wicked problems like climate change and poverty, as these problems require multifaceted approaches that transcend any single discipline or group. And all truly multifaceted approaches will have a tendency toward creative solutions because they are empowered by interconnection. And this way, creativity is an inherent and powerful affordance of transdisciplinary collaboration. One of the biggest roadblocks to addressing these complex real-world challenges is the disconnect between knowledge and action. Sometimes the research we're grounding our opinions on is outdated or difficult to apply. When academia's most profound insights are locked away in paywalls or obscured by academic jargon, perhaps we shouldn't be surprised that research can take a surprisingly large number of years to move from those academic journals to full uptake within society. And if we are going to make any headway on addressing these complex challenges, we need to find ways to expedite this process of moving from knowledge to action. The field of knowledge mobilization has arisen precisely to address this issue by connecting the right knowledge to the right people at the right time. And since this gap between knowledge and action is an issue of disconnection, it makes sense for creativity to be part of the solution. In other words, creativity can be used to provide new connections between knowledge and action. These creative forms of knowledge mobilization can and should include each of the 4 P's of creativity: creative processes, creative people, creative products, and creative places. Integrating creative processes early in a research project can support robust ideation and enhanced collaboration, while grounding it within a human-centered or even life-centered paradigm that supports positive, sustainable change. Research projects that seek to make a positive difference can also benefit from creative professionals. But we must always remember that there are no left or right-brained people. As Da Vinci exemplified, complex challenges require our whole brain, and we can all increase our creative abilities with time, effort, and training. And yes, creative products like exhibitions, videos, concerts, and live productions can absolutely play a role in bridging the gap between knowledge and action, but we must remember there is always more to creativity than the end product alone. And lastly, creative places can be developed to create contexts that facilitate and inspire creativity. I'm sure we can all remember a place where we felt inspired, perhaps in nature, or an art museum, or a cathedral. As an interesting thought experiment, though, it may be helpful to consider why we found those places inspirational, and which aspects of them triggered new ideas. Regardless of where we live, who we are, or what we do, it's imperative to find ways of tapping into the creative connections that exist all around us. If creativity requires connection, then it diminishes with disconnection. As most creative professionals will tell you, if you're feeling uninspired, the worst thing you can do is wait around for inspiration, hoping for that ever-elusive light bulb moment. Remember, a light bulb only works if it's connected to a larger system. So instead of waiting for inspiration, we should have a bias for action and proactively seek out new connections to fuel our creativity. And we can each do this by exploring interconnections within complex systems, utilizing nonlinear thinking strategies, forming other-directed relationships and mentorships, contributing to receptive communities of mutual learning, collaborating beyond disciplinary boundaries, and by considering the role you might play in bringing the right knowledge to the right people at the right time. My hope is that each of us can find both large and small ways to cultivate our individual and collective creativity as we seek to inspire change in our world. Change empowered by interconnection.